since this is a very unusual audience for me, I should be on the safe side and address you all as ladies and gentlemen and friends. Well, only once before I had to face such an audience dominated by a special discipline, veterans of a special discipline, and that was, well, a few years ago I had to undergo knee replacement surgery at All India Institute of Medical Science, New Delhi, and my surgeons, very kind ones, and among the doctors some were my readers also. Needless to say, a writer enjoys sometimes such extra privileges, and they afterwards came to me and told me that, rather commanded me that you must inaugurate our All India Orthopedic Surgeons Conference. Such a strange proposal I had never had received before. I said, myself an orthopedics conference? They said, no, calm down. Our system is that a non-medical person always inaugurates the conference, and last year it was Vice President answering. This was somehow doctors feel that you should do it. I said, thank you, it's a tribute to the patient, but I could not go for some unfortunate reasons, but again they called me next year and I had to address the conference. And when I received your communication of the organizers, including Horababu, Santanu Babu and others, and through my sister Santi, well, I protested naturally, but the question was now, that once having spoken at a conference of this nature in Delhi, who am I to disobey them when it is being held on the soil of my motherland, my mother state, Odisha. In any case, doctors are my demigods, and since Santi Devi has referred to Sri Aurobindo Ashram, there is a statement by the mother. I am not exactly sure of the words, and it is, doctors are the army of the divine. So I am addressing an army of the divine. It is a rare privilege. You see, why does mother say like that? Since times immemorial, man has been aspiring to achieve 5 goals of life. Man is trying to realize 5 dreams, ideals, whatever you can say, the end of human aspiration. And these 5 are God, light, freedom, bliss and immortality. Practically all our activities can be grouped under these heads. And you, the doctors, I am addressing, of course, there are many non-doctors here, but primarily I have to address them. You have been fighting to realize, to help men realize out of this fight very directly 3 distinct goals: freedom, bliss and immortality. Without a sound health and mind, there is no meaning of any freedom, freedom of movement or freedom of thought or freedom of dream, freedom of imaginativeness, nothing. And without bliss, life is a curse. Immortality. Well, we know very well that, certainly it is impossible a proposition, because if all human beings were immortals, earth would have no space, even if we stand shoulder to shoulder all over the surface of the earth. But the arbitrary way through which death claims our lives, the completely autocratic, unexpected, and I should repeat the word arbitrary way in which death claims our lives, that is what we cannot bear. Some people consciously revolt against it, but in most of the people, it remains embedded in their subconscious. Well, probably it is necessary that they should not be conscious very much of the impending doom, which is death, because probably they won't be able to act if they do that. But you see, you have heard of General Franco, the longest serving dictator in 20th century. When Franco was in Spain, and he was quite advanced age, and he was about to die practically. By his bedside, his doctors were there, and everybody knew the health bulletin was being published every few hours, and it was announced that any moment he may breathe his last. So his council of ministers came to see him. They were in the adjoining room, but he was in a coma. But when he came back to sense a little bit, he asked, "I can hear many voices in the next room. Who are they?" The doctor thought that it is time. The truth is revealed to him. He said, "Well, sir, they are the ministers, your members of your council of ministers. What are they doing there in the next room?" He asked. And again the doctor says, "Sir, they have come to bid you goodbye." "Goodbye? Where are they going?" Practically, that was his last statement. So this shows, the incapacity of an average man to think of this inevitable destiny awaiting him. Of course, you all know how the great question Dharmaraja had put to Yudhishthira, what is the most surprising thing in the world, and his answer that every moment people are dying, but those who are alive, they behave in a way as if they were immortal. Thousands of years have passed, but this subconscious unconsciousness, we can say, about death prevails and continues to practically dominate our activities and life. It is very difficult to be conscious of the death, unless one is sure there is nothing as death. It is only a transitional phase. Unless one is conscious of death, to remember death and yet to be active very much is not probably quite possible. So nature is arranged like that, and those who are, of course, conscious of this fact that life is not a statement between a date of birth and a date of death. It is a prolonged process. It is an indefinite process. It is a practically infinite process. Despite the knowledge of death and certainty of death, they would not, of course, in any way deviate from their duties or activities or their inspirations. Dear friends, I think the subject this time was fourth dimension of life or health, whatever it is. It was not very clear to me, but when I was asked to give a topic, I said the riddle of Sphinx. That is to say, the mystery of death. A figurative way of saying the mystery of death. Now, when I look into the history, epistemological side of entire human history, we can say, I say there are two approaches to death, or rather approaches to the conquest of death. One is physical approach. I need not elaborate on that. I need not even refer to that. You have grown up with such issues. The physical effort to delay at least death, to prepare people to lead a good life, to have a life. You, those who have saved millions of mothers, so delicate a duty you have performed. You have struggled against, the arbitrariness of death, definitely. And there have been so many great names. I did not go into the list of these names, but one name that strikes me, before the collapse of Soviet Union, probably the most well-known academic figure in those, that 1/6 of the world, Soviet Union, was one Vasily Kuprevich. I distinctly remember, in 1968, he came out with a very, very unexpected thesis. It said, death is an anachronism. We die because we are accustomed to die. We die because we see animals, all other animals dying. But the human constitution the constitution of a human person is done in such a way that he should go rejuvenating himself, he should go recreating himself, not only in consciousness, but in body also, physically also. Soon thereafter, Soviet Union collapsed, and I never heard of Dr. Vasily Prevish anymore, even though I wanted to inquire about him, because it was astounding. Death is an anachronism. Man, a human being is not met with a death as the purpose of his life. This was radically a spiritual statement almost. So I won't go into this physical, but one, yes, I must refer to at least one great announcement. There are so many statements about the enigma of death and the history of physical fight, medical fight against death. But no announcement was more sensational than one made in 1979 by a very, very well-known physician of United States of America, Alvin Silverstein. And the name of his book was, very fascinating name, simple, fascinating, The Conquest of Death. The book immediately became a sensation. I have the book still with me, and he analyzes the causes of death with United States as a backdrop and determines 4 major killers: coronary heart problems, cancer, diabetes, and accident. 4 major killers with United States as a backdrop. I think more or less it must be applying to other countries too. And he showed that such is the progress of medical science now, that in another decade or 2 decades, the medical science would have discovered, invented every possibility of defeating these 4 except accident. The other major 3 causes of death, the panacea must have been invented for them to defeat them. The book was naturally a sensation, and he was congratulated for his research. It is a scientific work. It is not an emotional outburst of anybody. It was a medically provable, statistics-based work. Hardly a year had passed. There appeared the AIDS, unexpected, indefatigable, almost irresistible. And that reminds me of a small footnote to the last chapter of Sri Aurobindo's magnum opus, The Life Divine. The footnote says, a day may come when either physical science, I'm not exactly quoting the words, but this is the sense, a day may come where either physical science or occult science may claim that they have found the way to immortality. But man will still not be immortal as long as a superior consciousness has not inhabited human life and it has not found an appropriate physical state, a physical medium to express itself progressively. In other words, what he foresees is the descent of a new consciousness to replace the present half animal, half man consciousness, unpredictable consciousness. A man can become a saint this moment and next moment a sinner, or vice versa. Now, this consciousness is not something which deserves a body which will continue to be ever. There has to be a radically, qualitatively different consciousness, and yet the body has to be prepared to accommodate it. That is his warning long before such possibilities had come to light. Now, dear friends, this is the irony of the situation. The doctors have done, medical science has done all it can, and it is doing all it can to break the arbitrary whimsicality of the force that is death. But let us see the other line of efforts to forestall and, if possible, to defeat death. The occult. Occult, atindriya, which is beyond our senses, but there is a difference between occult and spiritual. Occultism depends on tapping certain unknown natural laws through alchemy, through certain other secrets, tantric practices. There is a long story, it has a long history also, and tries to somehow, there is also even a myth of somebody, an old man, absorbing the vitality of another young man and continuing his life. I do not know, I have not verified this, nor have I got a very authentic record of such a possibility, but there are so many notes left by those who are practitioners of this kind of occultism, that it is true, but whatever it is. There has been there has been many people who have tried to indulge in occult sciences. They have tried to discover mythical streams of rejuvenation. Ponce de Leon, a great adventurist, he spent practically all his life to discover a hidden spring somewhere by bathing in which one rejuvenates automatically. 2000 years ago, there was a great Chinese emperor, Shi Huangdi, practically spent 20 years of his empire's income in trying to discover an elixir for immortality. Ultimately, he gave a statement, I have been misled, I have been a fool when he died. These are alchemic and occult experiments, but there has been the real seekers in Indian tradition, the real medical scientists, they never accepted these ways. I can report to you about a 1,000-year-old Sanskrit Ayurvedic text, which is accusing these alchemists and these occultists of playing with the natural rhythm of life and the natural development of what they call soul. The author asked the question, a 1,000-year-old work, the English translation was published in Science Digest magazine. Now, you want to be immortal? Well, here is the prescription they give. Get 10 ounces of the brain of what is it called? That one horn? Yes, one horn, no? Yes, you get it. And then, hippopotamus. Get 100 ounces of the brain of a rhino. Right, I'm sorry. My memory is tricky nowadays. It's a rhino. And then mixed with 100 ounces of the heart of alligators and start them on a portable shell of a tortoise or turtle for 11 years, 11 months and 11 days. And apply on your, if you want to, here is an example. If you want to get rid of your bald pate, apply them on your bald pate for 11 years, 11 months, 11 days. Hair will grow as profusely as they grow on hippopotamus and alligator and turtle. In other words, it is impossible. And they say this is an example of how occultism can help also to achieve immortality. You go on trying and trying, but all these efforts are all nonsense. But then there is the spiritual life. I remember once, a few years ago, in the United States of America, there was a conference, I happened to be there. At the interval, a very young but enthusiastic NASA scientist asked me, that is the time when the patent of neem was being contested in American courts. You remember? Neem America, some doctors in America or some farms or some institutions in America wanted to patent the qualities of neem, medicines prepared out of neem, and India protested. India went to the court that no, neem is a typical Indian, indispensable element of our Ayurvedic system of treatment. How can any other country patent it. Ultimately, India won. They could not patent it. At that time, the case was going on at that time, and the scientist asked me, well, how is it possible? There are most sophisticated laboratories. When we place neem and brahmi, these two, vegetations, when we experiment with them, the qualities which we discover, practically most of them have been recorded by Charako and Charako's disciples, the great pioneers of Ayurvedic system. What kind of a laboratory they had? That was his question, very frank question. Our laboratories, latest laboratories. But how could they determine the same element, discover the same qualities of neem and brahmi, particularly neem? What kind of laboratories they had? I told him, yes, they had a very, very wonderful laboratory. What is that? Where? I said, that is inside. They had the laboratory of consciousness. They could identify themselves with the life of the plants. By identifying themselves with the life of the plants, they could detect all the mysteries of the plants. That was the only laboratory they had. Now the center becomes consciousness. Now for a long time, India has always believed, the Indian spirituality has always believed that a man is not consisting only of the physical body, the emotional self, or the mental self. Deep within all these aspects of our personality, there is a great mighty power, a secret, and that is soul. And only those who are conscious of a higher destiny, those who are correct in their consciousness, they have the right to immortality, not anybody. Samudra Manthan, the churning of the ocean between devas and the demons, and ultimately the Amrita, the nectar, the elixir of immortality, went to the gods. That is because demons are egoistic. They would not let the power of evolution proceed. Anyway, to come back to the question of soul, in Indian mythology we find for the first time a clear reference to the soul in one of the Upanishads. There is a sage who is performing a yajna, and the purpose of the yajna is, Upanishad speaks in a very abrupt way. They don't go into details because they expected the readers to be wise enough to understand what they mean. So the rishi who was performing the yajna is getting rid of his attachment to anything. So he is giving away whatever he had, including a distributed cow. But his son, named Nachiketa, he knew the greatest object of father's attachment is myself. Unless father gets rid of that attachment, his yajna will not be successful. He goes to the father and says, Father, whom did you give me away? Or do you propose to give me away? Father does not reply because he didn't want to lose his son. The attachment is so strong. When third time the boy asks this question, he says to Yama, God of death. Anybody will understand the father is cursing the boy. It is not so. The boy goes, the Upanishad says, the boy goes to the abode of Yama, but Yama is away somewhere. For 3 days and 3 nights, he keeps standing there, waiting for him. And fourth day morning, he returns and sees that the boy has waited for him 3 days and 3 nights, in lieu of which he is most willing to grant him 3 boons. First 2 boons was, my father must be missing me, give him peace, etc., etc. Third boon, he asked, reveal to me the mystery of death. What happens to a human being after the body collapses? Yama says, my child, this is not something which I can answer, or I should answer. Ask me for wealth, ask me for long life, ask me for power. see the mundane temptations vis-a-vis the craze for knowledge, the aspiration for knowledge. So he goes on tempting him, but the boy remains absolutely unmoved. You have promised to give me 3 wounds. The choice of what I should ask is with me, and my demand is revealed to me, the mystery of death. Then Yama is obliged to tell him that, well, the mystery of death is this: there is no death. Once you are awakened to your soul, you know that there is something which sustains you. The other day I was giving a small instance, I mean, not for mature people like you, but for younger people, that how do you appreciate through common sense there is a soul? When I say, for example, say, I am walking, whose eye is walking? My physical, my body is walking. When I say, I am feeling inspired, who is feeling? Body is not feeling. My vital, my life force, my emotional being is feeling. When I say, I am thinking, which eye is thinking? My mind is thinking. But when I say, my body, my emotional being, my mind, who is saying that? So there is a 4th element in our personality which sustains these things. Sometimes in anybody's life there will be a violent struggle between vital impulses and mental intelligence. Anybody sensible enough is bound to experience such things. The body should collapse, but it does not. One should collapse, one should be fragmented. One does not become like that. It is because deep within us something is there which sustains it as long as it is necessary for me to gather enough experience necessary for my subsequent birth to have a new environment, a new situation. Now, that is what Nachiketa story revealed. And after that we see how so mystery of soul. Am I taking too long time? Oh, okay, thank you. Another few minutes. And so, there is a sage called Mrikanda. Childish, he wants a child. He is given time, only very short, very precise. And Lord Shiva's devotee he was. Shiva says, choose, either you will have a child, a son, who will live for 100 years, but will be a fool. Or a boy, 12 years, but will be a genius, a prodigy. At that moment, the rishi said, give me the second, I choose the second alternative. Okay. Markandeya is born to him, father's name Markandeya, his name is Markandeya, and at the age of 4, not impossible, there have been instances even in 20th, 19th century, a 4-year prodigy can learn 20 languages. Anyway, so he was a master of Sanskrit and Vedas. He was taking classes of other rishis on Vedas, Markandeya. But as 11th year passed, father and mother started shedding tears. And Markandeya asked them, what is the problem with you? Tell me. They revealed to him the truth. After 1 year, you won't be with us. Leave it to me, he said. He went to a lonely place in the Himalayas, completely remained absorbed within in his soul, and soul has no physical shape, no mental vibrations, no emotional contour. It is something invisible, not palpable, and once with the soul, he connects himself to Lord Shiva, which is eternal consciousness. The time of death comes, the messengers of Yama come, they don't find anybody. The time passes. He comes back to his senses. The destiny, horoscopic destiny has been invalidated now. And then 7 rishis are passing by. He bows down to each one of them. Each one says, long live. And he has become a martyr. Subsequent to that, we see another wonderful episode in our mythology, in Upanishads. There was a young man called Ruru. He loved a girl called Pramodpara. In those days, how free they were. And inside the forest, one day, they are not yet married, and the boy is collecting flowers to make a bouquet. And he wants to present it to Pramodpara. But as he is approaching Pramodpara, Pramodpara is ready to take him to task, why you are going in the dark to the forest, etc., etc. But suddenly he sees the girl's face pales and she collapses. He comes near and sees a golden string fading away, that a snake has bitten her, and the snake is passing away, and she is dead. So unexpected. And her eyes, Prabodhvara's eyes say, what is this? I am not prepared for that. I want to live a life. Why should this happen? Silently, Ruru sits with her and would not let anybody take away the dead body. This is the moment when, for the first time, we see a new element, the god of death, Madana. He appears before him and gives him a secret how to go to the netherworld, where dead people's souls are awaiting. He goes there, strikes a bargain with the god of death, sacrifices half of his life, gives half of his life. With that, Prabodhvara comes back to life. A successful bargain. But for the first time, we see the role of love in the fight against death. And the next significant legend is that of Savitri, the princess of Madra. You see, Kanya Tejaswini, a dazzling princess. Nobody can find a match for her, father, mother, the entire royal court. And so she herself, see the freedom ladies, women enjoyed in ancient India. She goes out alone in a chariot, surrounded by some bodyguards and old minister of the king, and finds Satyavan and meets her soul's mate. Comes back to the parents and says, I have found my choice. Oh no, Narada happened to be present there. Only a year Satyavan will live from today. Don't marry him, my child, don't. But I will, once I have determined it. Nothing can stop me from my decision. They are married. Only Savitri knows how. Day after day, what a terrible anguish she is sheltering, suppressing in her heart, but gathering the yogic power to confront the inevitable moment. Satyavan does not know even anything about it. That day, the fateful day, she accompanies her husband to the forest. Her husband is very happy that for the first time my consort has come with me to see the wonder world of flowers and plants and tall trees, mountains, etc. Very, enthusiastically he is introducing everything to Savitri. Savitri alone remains absorbed. The moment comes. My dear, I'm feeling something is happening in me, I don't know. And he collapses, keeping his head on Savitri's lap. At the right moment, God of Death's messengers come. God of Death himself comes, because Satyavan is a great soul. Savitri is a great soul. Not his messengers, he himself comes. You know the story. Savitri outwits him. I won't go into details. And God of Death is compelled to grant him a new life. Sri Aurobindo, thousands of years later, picks up this legend, and his epic, like in the prose, his Meghnadvapasa is the life divine. In the epic, the longest epic in English language, Savitri. The second name he gives is a legend and a symbol. Symbol of what? Symbol of ultimate conquest or defeat of death by the virtue of love, by the power of love. Love alone can defeat death, and divine love. That love has to be no passionate human love, impulsive love, but the divine love. My dear friends, I should not go on. But this is something, you see, a few years ago, precisely 1985, WHO sent a long, I have seen the letter, but I can't remember it now, and I cannot use the same technical words for you, so I will be rather shy just to say the theme of the letter. The letters are addressed to the Director General of Health Services, Government of India. Essence of the letter, as a layman I understood when the Director General, Dr. D.B. Bist, showed it to me, that for some time, the great physicians in the United States of America and also in some other European countries, they suspect that when all the records are being monitored about the reaction of a patient to a certain kind of treatment, physical as well as psychosomatic, its effect on their body, their mind, and their impulsive self, their vital, as we call it spiritually, their life. And two persons' records are same, but suddenly one day it is found that one of them has completely recovered. Though both of them belong to the same age group, same environment, same other factors. In India, for a long time, you have believed that there is a thing called inner self, soul. Does it sometimes respond or participate in this treatment? Does it respond when others are not responding? Or we know the response of others, but we can determine the response of the innermost soul? Do you think there is any sense in incorporating that soul in our medical statement? Hold a workshop, don't publicize it much. Hold a workshop India's, it is 1985, many years, decades have passed. None of you could have participated there because you are all too young for that. Now, they called India's top psychiatrists, physicians, etc., of all disciplines, and some students, I can say, of spirituality, and three of them. I was one of them. I don't know how, but I was there. In any case, I was called. And for 3 or 4 days, it was what we call in modern language journalists a brainstorming workshop. Ultimately, WHO published the outcome of this book called The Fourth Dimension of Health. And it was suggested that factor X, that is, if we say soul, some people will think, oh, you are repeating the same thing. So, apart from the body, mind, and life, and their interaction, and vis-a-vis the environment, which are the chief considerations for taking into account when a patient is being treated, there is a fourth dimension of human self. Let us call it factor X. It is high time we take cognizance of this. And the book was published by WHO. I was one of the 2 editors of that book. And the name is Fourth Dimension of Health. Now, dear friends, in other words, all these things can be summed up in one thing. And that legend, that truth is embedded in the legend Riddle of Sphinx. I am sure you all remember the story in your textbook, primary school or high school, you might have read it. Along the desert way, a lonely, desolate way, on a hillock, there took station a strange creature, the body of a lion, face of a woman, dog's paws, for its paws, a serpent for its tail, and in some depiction there are also wings of a bird, but not in major ones, called Sphinx. It is a demoness. And anybody in those days, there are not many travelers, so rarely somebody will pass by that way, that desolate way, and suddenly the poor fellow will hear a weird voice, stop, and the man will look here and there and up. Answer my riddle. By sundown, if you fail to do it, I have the right to take your life. What is the riddle? Name the creature which walks in the morning on 4 legs. As the day grows, he walks on 2 legs. In the evening, he walks on 3 legs. Who can answer this question? Poor traveler will be tearing his hair, cursing himself, and then as the sun goes down, this fearful creature pounces on the traveler and tears him asunder cruelly. One day, the great hero Oedipus happened to pass by. And when the same question Sphinx put to him, his immediate answer was, I am the answer. Now it is for Sphinx to be taken aback. What do you mean by you are the answer? The answer is man. Newborn child crawls on all 4, 2 hands, 2 arms and 2 legs, walks on 4 legs. Day grows means the day of his life grows. As his life grows, he walks on 2 legs. In the evening means evening of his life, he takes recourse to a stick. He works for 3 days. And the moment Oedipus had answered this question, Sphinx jumped to its death. The symbolism is quite obvious. The day man knows himself, death does not exist. Death dies when I know myself. Dear friends, thank you very much for your patient listening. I thank the organizers too.
Normally, after this discourse, we normally do not take any questions. I would like to ask our organizing chairperson,